Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Parlament podcast, brought to you by the JSOM's Undergraduate Deans Council. I'm your friendly neighborhood marketing major, Troy Murray, and I seek to talk to members of the JSOM community about their business endeavors, how COVID-19 has affected their pursuits, and how they've continued to grow professionally during these trying times. Joining me on today's episode, I have three amazing guests who I've come to know very well during my time at the Jindal School of Management. They are all proud members of the Student Ambassador program and have certainly made names for themselves as some of the brightest businesswomen JSOM has to offer. Let's meet them, shall we? First up is a senior finance major who currently serves JSOM as a Nova Ambassador and member of the Davidson Management Honors Program. She likes to read, travel, and can teach you everything you need to know about going corporate. Give it up for Joanne Nguyen.
Oh, hi guys. Thank you so much for having me, Troy. I'm super excited to talk about my experiences at UTD, and I'm just excited to be here. Thank you so much again.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming. Next up, we have a senior human resources management major who plans on graduating with her master's degree in May 2022. She's a Nova Ambassador, member of the Society of Human Resources Management, and active fitness guru. Give it up for Haley Deininger.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's literally been my dream to be on a podcast. So the fact that I get to share my experience and how much I love JSOM with you guys, I am so excited to be here.
So glad that you could join us, Haley. Thank you so much for coming. And finally, we have a senior accounting major who also plans on graduating with her master's degree in May 2022. She's actively involved in the professional program in accounting, the Davidson Management Honors Program, and knows everything you need to know about musical theater. You aren't seeing double, folks. Give it up for Sarah Deininger.
Thank you, Troy, for the introduction. I'm super excited to be on the podcast today and give you a little insight into my experience with JSOM and how much this university means to me.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you ladies could all join me on today's episode. Thank you all so much for coming. Now, let's get straight to business, shall we? So, first and foremost, I would love to hear about all of your initial journeys to JSOM. So, Joanne, we'll start with you. What initially brought you to the Jindal School of Management?
So actually, funny story, when I first applied for colleges, I had no idea what JSOM was, what UTD was, like where the campus was located, but I lived in Richardson, Texas. So like, it was kind of like interesting, like coming here because I was so close to home at the same time, but like, I didn't realize how phenomenal of an institution was located right next to like my home. And I ended up coming to JSOM or coming to business just because I felt like I honestly was a little lost as a freshman, but I found kind of my way. I realized that I really enjoyed numbers. I really enjoyed working with people. And like, I ended up in the business school and do not have any regrets after. So
yeah, no, I'm glad that you could find your home away from home. That's absolutely fantastic. Right next door, very conveniently. Haley, how about yourself?
So I came to UT Dallas, similar reason to Joanne. It's close to home. Sarah and I are actually going to be the fourth and fifth people in our family graduating from UTD. So we're a big UT Dallas family. Whoosh. But the reason I actually came to JSOM, so funny story, I started my freshman year as a child learning and development major in the behavioral brain sciences school because I was really passionate about teaching and essentially just helping others. And what kind of drew me in back to JSOM. So I always kind of said I had an aha moment where I was sitting in a class for one of my BBS classes and I realized I was really passionate about it, but I wasn't getting the same spark I had when I was first a business major because I came in as a business major. And I was like, really frustrated, couldn't figure out why like pieces weren't connecting. And then I was like, well, maybe I should go back to JSOM, like talk it out with a few people, see if I can find a major within JSOM that's the fit for me. And so I actually met with a friend of mine's mom who is a VP of human resources at a company I eventually interned with. And she was telling me all the exciting opportunities with human resources and all of the different pathways you can take with it. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know what, like this sounds like something I could be really good at. This is something I'm really passionate about. And I took the leap and I went back to JSOM. I chose HR and I don't think I could regret it even in the slightest. Like if I could do college all over again, I would have been human resources from the get-go. So that's why I was interested in JSOM.
Absolutely. No, that's really fascinating. I'm glad that you found your true passion in being able to pursue your business pursuits ever since. And Sarah, how about yourself?
I actually, similar, obviously same reasons as Haley and Joanne, I am close to home. One reason I really picked JSOM is, in all honesty, when I was a senior in high school, I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew that's exactly where I was headed. I kind of had a feeling that it was something I would enjoy. And I actually started as a finance major / global business. I was on the fence about it. Decided I didn't want to study abroad. I just wasn't personally for me. And I took Introduction to Financial Accounting with Dr. Files through the Davidson Management Honors Program. I absolutely loved the course. I just found that things make sense. I think accounting a lot is the language of business, but it almost feels like a puzzle in the way that things fit together and the way things, your debits equal your credits, or all sorts of kind of math, but not really math. It's much more conceptual, and that really drew me to the major itself. And I took the class and I loved it. And I said, you know what? If I could do this for the rest of my life, then why not? So made the switch, but always knew I was going to be a business student. Always knew business was kind of in my career path. It just took me a little bit of time. Didn't change my major until about sophomore year. So was super excited about it. I love the courses. So that's kind of what drew me in.
Phenomenal. And I've had the honor of meeting Professor Files as well. She's an absolutely lovely teacher. So I absolutely know what you mean by going down that path because of her. Now, ladies, all of you have very different paths that you're pursuing professionally. And I would love to know more about what sparked your interest in your current major. I know some of you talked a little bit about that, but I'd love to go a little bit more in depth to kind of see exactly where it all began. Did JSOM also influence your pathing at all? Haley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think for human resources management, what initially drew me, like I said, was meeting with outside professionals and kind of getting that insight. What also really connected me to the major, and something that I've always really loved about it, is, you think human resources, and probably the first thing that comes to your mind is Toby from The Office, who is this bland kind of character. Everybody kind of hates him. And that is not who I am. I am not a bland person. I am super extroverted, and I want to basically talk to the whole world. I think I could talk to a wall. But what I loved about human resources is it was actually super versatile in the sense of you can go into recruiting, you can become a trainer for training and development departments, you can work with talent management and do performance management, you can work in employee relations. There were all these different little segues in human resources that fit under this umbrella. And I thought that was a really unique perspective of the major, and especially of the career paths you can take. You're not just, stuck doing one thing forever. If you don't like it, you can switch. And I think that was something I was really appreciative. And I think something that really influenced me throughout my time at JSOM and kind of being in the HR program is I was in my Introduction to Human Resources Management class with Dr. Weekly. And just the way he was able to kind of articulate the different paths of HR, the different facets of HR, the importance of human resources, and how you really are such a strategic business partner within your organization, and how you're kind of the heart and guard of company culture. I was always just absolutely mesmerized that if you have gotten the chance to take with Dr. Weekly, he is wonderful. His knowledge is fantastic. He knows so many ins and outs of the program. And I think I also enjoyed the fact that JSOM, because human resources is the smallest of the degree plans, you really get that opportunity to know your professors. So like I said, Dr. Weekly, Dr. Mita, just fantastic human beings. And I think they have influenced the way I want to live my career. And so that would be for me. That's what kind of made me fall in love with human resources.
Definitely. And I love the tight knitness of it. I'll probably have to take that professor as well going forward with the human resource program. Now, Sarah, how about you with accounting? I know that you mentioned Professor Files definitely played a big part in it, but was there any other major factors that influenced your path in accounting?
Oh, definitely. I think with accounting, something that I really like about the major, and something I think a lot of students that come into UTD sort of don't really know what accounting 100% is. Is it finance? Is it different from finance? Like, where's the overlap? And I would say they had a lot of overlap when I was originally picking. I would say finance was more of a forward-thinking degree plan. I'm sure Joanne can speak towards that more because she is a finance major. And accounting is more that backtracking and kind of looking at your year performance and review. And I'm a very risk-averse individual. I know there are people out here that love to take risks, love to take the chance. I am not one of those people. I'm very much, I like to be comfortable in what I know and what I can do. And accounting is very much, it is innovative, and there is tons of technology, and IT is now coming to play a role in the accounting field. But I love the way that it's kind of structured, and I love that there's so much conceptual rules and regulations and policies and sort of just the way that accounting is such a language to the business world. I love the way that it's so structured and it's so, things are going to change every year. We're going to have new regulations coming out. We have cryptocurrency and all sorts of things like that need accounting regulations that we're not really sure, like those borders yet. But I love the way that things are so kind of repetitive, but also make sense in the way that they were. And I think that was what I've always loved about this degree. I love the way that you can go into public accounting if you're interested in that. That's personally the route I'm taking with the professional program in accounting to get my CPA license eventually, hopefully right around the time that I graduate. But I also love that you can do cost accounting. You can go work for any company you want. And I just love the flexibility of the degree, that it's not, like Haley said with human resources, it's not a one size, like you're kind of stuck doing, like once you pick it, it's so narrow that you can't do anything else but that specific degree. You can kind of go to industry, or you can go work for the government, or you can go work in public sector. And I just love the flexibility, but also like the uniformity of the entire degree plan.
Absolutely. And the flexibility within accounting. And I'm glad that you also mentioned with the finance part of it as well, because there's a lot of cohesion between the two of them, which obviously brings me to you, Joanne. So I'd love to hear your kind of talk on the finance side of things and how it's ultimately influenced you.
Yeah, so I actually came in as an ITS major when I came to JSOM. Both my parents are techies. They are both programmers. So I was like, why can't I do this? And then I got in, and then I quickly realized that this was not for me. This is not what I fully enjoyed. So I realized that I really enjoyed math. And I even remember me and Sarah were in Files' class, and I was like, maybe I want to be an accounting major, But then I looked I looked through kind of the pros and cons of each. And like Sarah mentioned, accounting is very backwards looking, while finance is very forward looking. And I found that I really did kind of a faster paced environment and more of a challenge in a sense. So I kind of took it in a way that maybe I should do finance, maybe I should switch to it. So I did. And what I have really enjoyed about finance is that I've taken classes abroad. So I went abroad for a semester. Even though I was talking to people from different countries, we all had the same principal basis of what finance was. Finance is very such a universal language. It's around everywhere. And if you talk to people abroad, if you talk to people in other states, they're going to have kind of the same basis of what you're learning. They know what you're talking about. So it's really useful because you can, pick up yourself and work maybe anywhere you really wanted to at some point. And found that I really enjoyed the data analysis part of it. I enjoyed working with Excel, working with numbers, working with theories. And I really, it's just a good passion of mine. And then I do agree that with Sarah, I think she mentioned that she's a risk adverse person. I can kind of agree to that a little bit. So that's why I have chosen to work in the risk sector of finance, which is controlling risk, and then kind of omitting it kind of from the work processes and workflows of things. But there are also riskier portions of finance that people can explore too. You have investment banking, you can look into options, futures markets, looking at stocks, etc. And there's also financial planning. So there's a wide variety of things that you could apply yourself if you were just really interested in finance as well.
Definitely. I'm glad that you had the good change of pace and it's allowed you to find something that you absolutely love and you're very passionate about. Now, speaking of your beginnings for you three, obviously times have changed since all you ladies started here at JSOM. So I wanted to ask how the pandemic has altered your daily lives and what have you done to overcome the challenges of online learning? Sarah, we'll start with you.
Definitely. I will say COVID-19 has certainly changed the way that I think all of us operate our day-to-day lives. Prior to COVID, I actually commute from off campus. But most of my days were spent on campus. I used to literally go to school at 8 a.m. and come home at 9 p.m. at night. I spent my whole entire day at UTD. And that was just doing classes full time, being part of all of the organizations I wanted to be with, joining in with my friends. Obviously, the social aspect of college, it was important to me. I just love the connections with the people I've made. And I just think that UTD is so unique in the stories that people had to share and just the experiences we all had. And I just love the campus culture of UTD and the way that we're all so different, but we're also united under one university. And I think, once COVID hit, things got a little hectic. I would say most of my days are pretty repetitive nowadays. I'm fortunate enough, I did have classes on campus this past semester. So I was able at least to go in person, very safely. I think UTD did a great job of transitioning students to have that flexibility of options to either go in person or go online to your choosing. So I'm fortunate. I spend way less time at UTD now, probably, 3 hours a day because of my classes, kind of how I've transitioned this past semester. But a lot of it is just, wake up. I love running. Haley and I both have kind of picked that up during the pandemic. So I run a whole lot and then do my schoolwork, go through my day, taking my classes, and then honestly just finding ways to relax and finding things I'm passionate about or reconnecting with things. I used to love reading when I was a kid and growing up. Definitely when you hit college, I think everybody gets so tired of reading your textbooks that you're like, I just don't want to read another thing today. And I think that was something I definitely kind of gotten to pick back up because of COVID and just like baking more and cooking more and kind of, I make so many Rice Krispies. Haley can attest to this. It's like my go-to treat of making. So it's been kind of fun getting to connect with some of my hobbies more because I didn't have time to pursue them when I was at school 24/7. And so that's been a really great positive. I do love the campus. I wish things were back to normal. I'm sure a lot of UTD students agree with that. But in retrospect, I think UT Dallas has done a great job handling the COVID situation. And I think that just being able to reconnect with hobbies has been a great way to spend my time in this pandemic.
Definitely. The modality, it sounds really, really convincing and allowing you to help pursue those passions. And I do have to try some of those Rice Krispie treats. Honestly, that sounds like really, really good right now. And now, Joanne, how has social distancing ultimately affected your pursuits?
Yes, I will say that before pre-COVID, I was a big social butterfly. I love being out and about. I love meeting people. I can quote Haley. I think she told this to me once. I just want to tell people I love them and like to their face and hug them still, like, because that's just like what I do. But COVID-19 has really changed the way that I feel like I live my current life. I think that I find myself more reaching out to people that I have known in the past, like to call them, to catch up with them. Honestly, it's been a really good time to reflect on who I've had around in my life for the past couple of years and who I really want in my life, because just I feel like everyone's social circle is kind of sinking into the point to where you have the most important people with you and you want to keep these people around. So in terms of COVID, I feel like that has really solidified my relationships and what I really think of the people who are close to me. But that being said, I do miss going to campus. I do miss studying with people. I do miss seeing my teachers, learning from them in person, just because I feel like there's so much knowledge that you can gain from a classroom and being in a classroom physically as well. That being said, some hobbies. I mean, I do the whole workout thing. I feel like Haley and Sarah and I have talked about it a little bit. Of course, they're doing a marathon, which is crazy, but applaudable. But do that. And then I've learned a lot of recipes over quarantine. It's been really nice. I do cook a lot more. And honestly, just taking a break. Sometimes it's okay to take a break, but people don't realize that that's an option, and that's really nice to know. Even if the world is a little bit crazy, you can take a couple days for yourself and it'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that with social distancing going on, the work world and then the home world kind of just get meshed, and you have to have that fine divination within your household in order to make things work. So I know exactly what you mean. And Haley, how about you? How does social distancing affect you?
Yeah, so I think it is no shock COVID-19 upended our entire college experience. And it was just such a weird transition. And I was still interning at the time that I moved, all of our stuff moved back home. So I thought that was a really weird experience, being an intern working from home, but also being a full-time student at home. And then, spending all my time at home. I was sitting there one day and I was like, everything I do is at home. Oh my goodness. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think I agree with Sarah and Joanne. COVID-19 has taught me a lot about, being more intentional with who I reach out with, being more intentional with my time. And so, it's taking that step to see, find your way to see people. And, that a simple FaceTime call can go a really long way. A simple Teams call can go a really long way. A phone call can go a long way. I know people who became my pen pals. So I think I've loved the kind of different ways we've reached out and stayed connected to each other, especially during this challenging time, because I know it's not easy. And I don't want anyone to think that they're alone in this world. So it's been really difficult to try to make sure that I'm checking in consistently on everyone. But also, like Sarah said, all of my days feel pretty repetitive in the sense that I actually didn't have any classes available on campus this semester. So I wake up, I roll out of bed, I start my class days and I study. And then I try to set a firm deadline for myself. So I think I don't go past 10:30, 11-ish in studying world. which feels like a long time, but trust me, everyone, I do procrastinate. I am just like y'all. I check my phone when doing my work. So sometimes I get dragged in the social media hole. So I'll set a firm deadline, and then I start to kind of do things that I like to enjoy. I've recently learned how to practice piano. So I've been self-teaching myself that. I have a longboard now, so I like to longboard in my free time. I will read a lot. I work out a lot. I think physical health and fitness has been something I really got into during the COVID-19 pandemic, because I had all this time on my hands and I was like, you know what sounds like fun? Learning to run. So was grateful I had Sarah with me to stay as like an accountability partner. And I think also just picking up those passions, finding new passions, taking a break. But let's be real, I am so ready to go see everyone on campus again. I am more than excited to go sit at the plinth and just people watch, not in a creepy way though, just in a nice way. And I am really excited to connect with everyone again. I know that day is coming. I am such an optimist. So I'm proud of the way the university has handled the COVID-19 pandemic, but I definitely miss everyone. Like I said, I really miss Joanne. Her and I are in pretty much everything together. And sometimes I'm like, man, I just want to go give Joanne a hug. I could give Sarah a hug right now, but I'm not going to do that for all of y'all's sake. But that, I think, is how social distancing and COVID-19 has kind of affected my JSOM.
Absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean in terms of not being physically on campus, because for me, maintaining engagement with campus life was absolutely the biggest struggle at first. But honestly, I think it's from getting involved in programs virtually, like the Student Ambassador program alongside U3, that I've been able to kind of keep in touch with the common community. And now, speaking of which, I wanted to ask you ladies about how the Student Ambassador position has impacted all of you professionally, because all four of us are basically the only 4 JSOM members of the Student Ambassador program. So I wanted to ask you all, what significant takeaways from the program have you been able to apply to your business endeavors? And Joanne, you've been in the position the longest, so I would love to start with you.
Yes, I will say that Student Ambassadors is such a phenomenal program. Like, I didn't realize that coming into it, I think my sophomore year. But now that I'm in it, I've realized I've met some of the most talented and amazing individuals within like UTD, like itself, just within this program. And it's kind of amazing. Like, we have Patrick who does like cancer research. We have people who are just like killing it, like with like their life goals, like people going to med school, people who have like gone to like MBA programs that are super cool, like from after being a student ambassador. And I really think that's so cool, just because we have so much diversity on our campus, but it's so easy to get sucked into like kind of your like maybe your own little circle and like realize that there's like so many more people that are so cool out here. So that's one thing that I really love about the student ambassador program. But in terms of like professionalism, and then maybe like how this position has helped me like moving forward, just with my like future like professional goals, I will say that being on exec or being like the executive committee as like internal affairs chair, I have learned a lot about empathy, and I think working with other individuals as well. I didn't realize how much I'd have to like connect and talk to other individuals within the program and try to get people to bond, but it's been really rewarding, especially because it's been COVID-19, to have like our program set up to the point to where we want like our student ambassadors to like be with each other and then also like be able to socialize with each other. It's taught me a lot about leadership, how to lead a committee, how to organize events, how to get things done, and just like also like being receptive to like the ideas that people give you on your committee. I think it's really important to like emphasize how much you appreciate those who work for you and those who are doing things for you voluntarily. I didn't realize how important team dynamics were in getting things done. So like, I definitely think my experience with student ambassadors, like it's made me grow a lot as a leader. And then it's made me realize how important like a team is and how like important it is for efficiency, and then also like to get things done as a whole.
Fantastic. Now, Haley, you, Sarah, and I all joined the program at the same time. Do you think the program has left a similar impact on you as it has for Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Joanne said, the Student Ambassadors really is a phenomenal program. I think it really embodies what UT Dallas stands for, in the sense that we're all so diverse, but we all love this university so much and we're looking for ways to serve as much as possible. I think as Joanne said earlier, I work under Joanne's committee. So Joanne is my executive chair. So we're in internal affairs, and our goal is to make sure that ambassadors are making meaningful connections. It's not easy in a virtual environment to sometimes be vulnerable with people or sometimes show your true self. And I think I've been really proud of the work that our committee's done in, planning things such as our fall retreat and our spring lock-in and all of our individual socials. I think that's been something it's been rewarding to kind of see that happen. And also just the fact that everyone is so willing to reach out to each other. But I joke all the time, like, Troy, I think I've said it to you, like I tried to picture what your height was. Like that to me was just wild that I couldn't picture how tall people were. And so moments like that where we're building these connections in a virtual world, but I think I could see all of you in person and I would still have the exact same feelings that I do on screen as I do off. So I think that has been a really meaningful part. I also just love the fact that we've gotten to participate in some of those really big events, such as Comets Giving Day. We moved our oozball tournament to Game Glow. I think seeing us all come together and work for these meaningful causes for the university has also just been a really rewarding experience, especially as a first-year ambassador, but also a virtual ambassador.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely hard to believe people at first whenever they meet me virtually and then they say, oh, yeah, you give off 5'8" energy. And then I give off the big reveal that I'm 6 foot. No one believes me at first. I'm telling you guys, I'm 6 foot. You can confirm it when you see me on campus next semester. I promise. Now, Sarah, can you confirm exactly what Haley was saying, what she was saying about you? Is it the same in terms of application for yourself?
Oh, definitely. I think student ambassadors, Joanne and Haley both touched on it. Phenomenal program. I love the way that it's very interesting. I think a lot of JSOM students, especially because this school specifically offers so many programs and organizations tailored to business students only, like Beta Alpha Psi is for accounting, finance, and IT majors, or NOVA Ambassadors is the ambassador program, but just exclusively for the business school. And I think that's wonderful, but I love the way that student ambassadors embodies the entire campus. I serve on the membership committee. I am the only business student on the membership committee. And not only that, I am the only one not going to medical school on the membership committee is what it feels like, because they're always, studying for their MCATs, or they're all taking chemistry. I don't actually know what other classes people in the other schools take because I'm a business major. But I just love the way that it's so unique getting to interact with people who aren't in your major and have completely different career paths as you, people who want to go on to be doctors and do research and academia. It's just so interesting, bouncing ideas off of them back and forth and kind of seeing their perspective of things versus kind of getting to influence the business perspective of being on the committee. And being like, what about budgeting? Or what about, these PowerPoint structuring? And just sort of like, I love that I can kind of incorporate my own little style into what we do with business. I think we do a great job of, JSOM specifically does a great job of preparing people for like these professional meetings and like how to carry yourself and, how to interview on a Teams call or a Zoom call. I'm sure so many people had to deal with that during COVID. And so it's nice that like, sometimes I feel like I can give my own little spin to the projects we're working on. And I just love the uniqueness and the diversity of being in the program and getting to just hear stories from amazing people that I wouldn't have met otherwise being in JSOM. So that's been such a great impact for me. And I hope that, 20 years down the road, point of view, we're both alumni, like all of us are alumni and we're coming back to an alumni event. And it's going to be crazy to be like, oh, the next president of the United States is from UT Dallas, or, oh, like the man that solved cancer, like figured out cancer research. He went to school with me. We worked together on this team. And so it's kind of fun to sort of just see how these, are the alumni who are going to be making such a difference tomorrow. And I think that's been something that I love about this program is just the diversity and the uniqueness and just being able to really connect with the university and be that tie from current students to alumni and getting to kind of leave a mark on this university in such an interesting way.
Absolutely. We love the membership committee and all it does for the student ambassador program. Now, I have a couple of questions here for you three that were submitted to us by the JSOM students on our Instagram page. For those of you listening at home, if you would like to ask a question to a future guest we have on the podcast, be sure to go to our Instagram page at JSOM Deans Council and turn on notifications for our story. Your question just may end up in a future episode of the Parlament podcast. So, our first question comes from Kushi Goyel, who asks, if you could relive one moment from your time at UTD, such as a class with a certain professor or a particular event, what would it be? Now, Haley, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really great question because I think, about to graduate, there's so many memories I've had at UT Dallas that I would love to just relive or go back and appreciate a little bit more. I think one of the big memories I've had, or a really impactful experience I had at UT Dallas, is I got to serve as an orientation leader and an orientation team leader for my first, my sophomore, my junior year of college. And I can tell you, it was the most fun I have ever had. It was the best job I have ever had. I really enjoyed meeting incoming students. I love talking to prospective students and families. I love working with, similar to like what we do in Student Ambassadors, OL is another way to kind of connect and be diverse. I sound like I'm doing an ad for OL, but I really am not lying when I say it's one of the most like fantastic programs on campus. So I think if I had to go back, I would probably go back and relive my summer 2018. It was my first comic camp as a comic camp counselor. I was partners with a now UT Dallas alum named Gabe Covarrubias, and we just had a blast. And I love being crazy and silly with my friends. I love getting people amped up on UT Dallas. And I think that was probably one of the most fun experiences I've had. And if I would go back like into a more like professional sense, I think just getting the notification in my email saying I was welcomed back into JSOM was really exciting because that shifted my whole career. I thought I was going to be a teacher. And then all of a sudden I had my little semester panic where I was like, this isn't for me. And then boom, I was right where I needed to be. And so I think a big takeaway from college in general is just, it's going to work out. Like you're going to end up and graduate exactly where you need to be. So don't panic if you are overwhelmed because there are so many people who are out there to help you. So those would be my two if I could relive.
Oh, no, certainly. And I can also testify on the orientation leader position. Having been in the position last year and currently being a team leader myself, I know exactly what you mean. It's definitely the most rewarding position in the world. And it definitely helps me to stay connected to UTD at this time as well. Now, Sarah, same question to you. What has been your most memorable time at UTD that you could relive?
I love this question because I think there is just so many ideas or just days that I would love to relive in my college experience. I would say similar to Haley, being an orientation leader was an 11 out of 10 experience. I do recommend if you are a JSOM student and you happen to have a summer free, go for it. It's such a fun experience. You don't realize how connected to campus you are and how knowledgeable you become of the resources, and getting to go to comic camp, which sounds silly, but it's just so fun to get super hyped up on your UTD spirit with a bunch of other people. I went when I was a freshman and it totally shifted my perspective of UT Dallas. And I was like, wow, this campus is amazing. All these people are so into school spirit. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be an orientation leader. But honestly, I think if I had to go back and relive a day of my college experience, I would just say it sounds so silly to be like just one of those really beautiful days where the weather's just gorgeous outside and you're sitting in the student union at a table with all of your friends, just hanging out and working on homework together or just joking off and having a good time, maybe eating Chick-fil-A from on campus or Panda. I personally only ever ate Chick-fil-A. That was just my go-to. Just like one of those days that like you never thought you would take it for, you're just like having a normal day. It's just one of those experiences. You're just hanging out with your friends and you just have that feeling of content in your heart, like that feeling of peace where you feel like you're exactly where you need to be. I think I would relive one of those days. I think just having that experience and just getting to hang out with like the people I know that are going to be my lifelong friends and just experiencing that all over again, I think would definitely be something I would love to relive if I could go back in time for my college experience.
Absolutely. I never knew how much I would miss the Panda at the student union until everything kind of shut down. So I know exactly what you mean. And Joanne, for you.
I don't know if this counts because I mean it happened during my college years, but not necessarily at UTD, but it was sponsored by UTD. But I studied abroad my junior year my fall semester of junior year, and I went to Cologne, Germany, and I got so much support from JSOM and just from like UTD itself. I got a scholarship to go abroad, and I did that first semester. And it really grew my love for travel. It grew my love for just like other individuals like who are living elsewhere. Just like I met so many cool people from like Spain, from Finland, from like Scotland. It was amazing. And what's great was that I was with all the business students too abroad. Like I could talk to them about finances. I could talk to them about how they're like maybe their governments were run, maybe how their businesses were run, how like what their perspective was on life. And it was just very, very eye-opening. Like I even got to take classes abroad too. And like my finance professor abroad, he worked for like a German hedge fund. So like he would just like kind of bring in like some of his like personal experiences at work that we could learn from. And it was really interesting getting to know or getting to see a perspective from like a different side of the world of like what I'm going to be studying. So that was super cool as well. I got to travel to 15 other cities. I did a whole like tour of Europe, and it was like really, really beautiful. It made me so thankful for the fact that like UTD is so supportive of their students going abroad, going on an exchange, and like having these experiences. Like UTD will try to provide as much as they can for you. So I would say that was probably the best experience I've had college-wise, just because it was an experience that I don't think I'll ever get like outside of college either.
Glad that you got a chance to travel before the pandemic happened, Joanne. I'm glad you got a chance to go ahead and experience that. That's really, really cool. I've always loved to go to Europe myself. And finally, we have a question from Harshi, who asks, what aspect of your major has been the most rewarding and the most challenging? Sarah, let's start with you in accounting.
That's a great question. I'll start with the most challenging first. I will be honest, some days accounting is tough. It's a hard concept to grasp. Especially when you get into your more advanced classes. I personally really struggled with cost accounting. It was just not something I was super comfortable with. It just, it was one of those things where debits didn't have to equal credits necessarily all the time, because that just wasn't like, we didn't do tons of journal entries. A lot of it was like work in process and finished goods and, like overhead and cost accounting. And it was just something I really struggled with, honestly. And like, even as I'm getting into my upper level electives, like I think taxes are kind of difficult. Like wrapping your head around it is a little bit challenging, which is funny because it's actually what I'm going into. I'm starting to work full-time on Tuesday in tax accounting, which I'm super excited about, but it's kind of funny. It's also pretty difficult. I think honestly, some of the most rewarding parts of being an accounting major, especially in the public, when you want to go in the public sector, is the public or the professional program in accounting. They prepare us with everything we need. Like they allow us to go through recruiting together, and they allow us to connect with firms on campus and just be able to have those connections with all these professionals that are in the accounting world. And I think that was so valuable in going through like the recruiting process for people, especially when they switch online. I personally didn't go through recruiting because I'd already signed on to a different accounting firm, but I know like people just find that invaluable in the accounting program. And honestly, for me, something I've really loved is I feel like I've made a lot of friends in the accounting program. It's something about, even when you're a freshman, it's about taking those really hard classes together, those really challenging moments when you're all sitting there and you're like, we don't know what's happening. Like, what is manufacturing overhead? That's just an example. I know what it is. But, you're going through it and you're like, this is so hard. Like, it's gonna be like nothing but stress from here on out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's in those moments where like you and your 5 friends in your major are all just sitting there and you're like, make it stop, like make it connect, like help us out. And like just those friendships I have made through like those stressful experiences of taking classes together, like intermediate accounting too is no joke, but I made some of my best friends in the accounting program through it. And especially this past semester, there's about 5 of us that are all in the program together, all doing tax. We studied together. We worked on like our biggest project together, and we were all like, this is so hard. But it's just those moments, like something so rewarding is knowing that like those people I'm going to meet up in the professional world together. Like a lot of us are all going to work for the same accounting firm, which is really cool because we're going to be in similar teams. And like, just the fact that UTD, like your classmates are also going to be your coworkers, and just being able to bond now is so fundamental to that experience when you're a professional and you're trying to like look at job perspectives, or like you're in the same company as somebody that you were best friends with that you were sitting next to in your intro class. And I think that has been so rewarding. It's just honestly for UTD is making those friends, making those connections, and having like that sense of comfort that these are people that are going to be in my profession, and these are going to be people I can connect with on LinkedIn years down the road and be like, hey, like I heard you're doing this at XYZ company, like tell me about what you do. And I think that by far has been the most rewarding. It's tough, but it's very rewarding.
Having taken accounting myself, I can definitely say truer words have never been spoken. Now, Joanne, how about you with finance?
I'll start with the challenging first. There have been moments at 3 a.m. where I don't know what's happening. It was mainly last semester because I was taking my hardest load of classes. I was in investment management, and dear God, like I understand the stress now. I understand, like, do you make the trade or not? It's so like investment management was so hard for me. And the thing though that I would say that got me through it was surprisingly, even during COVID times, like my classmates knew how difficult this class was, but like we all kind of banded together to like in agreement that this was so hard that we had to talk to each other. And I was like, this has never happened before, like in my like undergraduate like BCom class or like my like calculus class. Like you put something in the group message and like everyone is like silent for days. Like you can hear the crickets like everywhere. But dear God, in my investment management class, like you could be like, what in the world is this option trade? Like what in the world is happening here? And then like someone would reply instantly. So like I would say that investment management was super hard. Like honestly, getting my final grade on that test, I like wanted to cry. I was like, thank God this is done. Like this is over. But and it is hard, but I do really enjoy it. Like it is like it's like I learned a lot from this class in a sense for like my life, like capabilities and like what I like things that I need to like get and sort for my life, like financially. Like I've learned a lot, but it was a lot as well. So the most rewarding thing within finance, I would say, is that I just do love numbers. I do like doing a good spreadsheet analysis. And I do like working through problems and stuff. So it is very rewarding knowing that like I'm putting output into the world that like makes sense to me. I'm like going through numbers. Like this is like my field of specialization, and that I can actually like put some output into the world and do some good for the world in a sense. And it is nice knowing that like what I've learned in school can be applicable to like what I may be doing in the future as well.
Definitely. No, I can understand your struggles, Joanne. Trust me, I know what you mean. And Haley, how about you with human resources management? What's been the most rewarding and the most challenging for you?
This is a good question. Similar to Joanne and Sarah, I'll start with the challenging part first, just so we can end on a positive. I think the most challenging part of human resources is kind of finding your fit a little bit in the sense of like what HR function you want to go into. Like for me, I think that I would really love recruiting, but the internship I had where I was going to do talent and acquisition management got canceled. So I don't know if I'm going to like recruiting. So I think that's probably the challenging part, is all of it is so interesting, but at the end of the day, you can only really pick like one area. I mean, unless you go into a more general role, then I guess you can do more. Or I would say another challenging piece. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is a certification you can get called the SHRM Certified Person. And it is a exam you take, and then once you pass, you're certified, and it kind of solidifies and shows it's a tangible symbol of you knowing human resources and knowing the different functions and competencies that go into human resources. I will tell you, I have been taking practice tests for that class, and something that I think like it's one of those things where it's like which answer is best, but like there's answers that also work. And those exams, every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, like I would have done it that way, but it's fine. So, you know, it's me fighting a learning management system, and that's okay. I think that part's challenging. The most rewarding part of human resources to me is I have weirdly found a knack at doing talent management. I don't know what it is about performance appraisals, performance competencies. I'm just oddly good at them. And I think one thing that's really rewarding is kind of finding ways to categorize someone's talent, finding ways for people to feel that they can show their strengths versus weaknesses. I think also a big piece of that is I talked about being a team leader, and that was where I got a lot of HR experience, in the sense I got to work with my first recruiting campaign, my first interviews. And I think finding ways to actualize people's potential and place them in areas where they can show their strengths is really rewarding. And I think there's a moment where you're sitting there and like a light bulb clicks in someone else, and you're like, they understand. Like, I just taught this subject and they understand, and they're going to be able to be supported in their role because I was there to help them. I think that's really rewarding. And also, like Sarah and Joanne said, I think it's the people in our programs. You get the opportunity to be in some of your upper level electives. Like, I'm in the certification exam, and it's me and 2 other people, and we are the 3 strong in the class, and I feel like I got to know them really well. And so it's those connections you're never gonna be able to take for granted, because these people are going to be in the career world with you. And the fact that we go to UT Dallas and it's close to DFW, odds are a lot of us in our professional career will be at the same companies. And I think that's really exciting. But I love the HR program. I think I could talk about it for days, but nobody wants to hear that. So you can always come to me if you're interested with more information.
Wonderful. And I know what you mean in terms of the interpretation element of human resources. It feels like you're back at the SATs taking the literature portion again, and you're like, there's so many answers that can work here. So I know exactly what you mean on that too. Now, thank you ladies so much for answering those questions. Thank you everyone at home who submitted those questions. That was absolutely wonderful. Now, to wrap this up for the day, ladies, to kind of wrap everything up with the Parlament podcast today, I would love to hear what wise words the 3 of you have for the students, faculty, staff, and alumni of JSOM listening here. If you could leave them all with one significant takeaway today, what would it be? Joanne, we'll start with you.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all at JSOM, or we're all in JSOM and all at UTD. That's probably the thing that unites us the most, right? We're all here. And UTD is such a growing place. Like, JSOM offers so many resources to students. In the end of the day, like, I feel like everyone who works at UTD kind of has your best interest. Like, people who are around you, like, they're all very friendly. They all have different experiences. They have all gone through different things in life. And just like, honestly, like, take advantage of that. Take advantage of how many people like you're around, how many smart and like kind individuals you're around that really want you to succeed and want you to gain the experience that you need to have the career that you want. Like really, like, professors are there for you to talk to them and for you to learn from them. So I'd say take advantage of that. And then just like with everything with COVID, like, make sure you're reaching out to the people that are important to you. And then even if you don't see them on campus anymore, because I mean, that's what unites a community, right? Staying in touch, taking care of each other, etc.
Definitely. And Haley, how about yourself?
As someone who's been at UTD now for 4 years and I'm on my way to being an alumni, I think my biggest thing I can say is, if you're a current student or a freshman, no matter where you are in college, take advantage of every opportunity. This was something I heard a lot about when I first came to UT Dallas, and it was, you get out exactly what you put in. And so if you're unafraid to take those risks, to make yourself just a little uncomfortable, I think you learn and grow the most. And as Joanne said, I mean, with the pandemic and COVID, just remember, like, UT Dallas is home. Root yourself to UT Dallas, and also take those opportunities to connect and stay in touch. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. I think it can be really intimidating to want to meet your professor on a Teams call, but they're there to help you as much as anyone, and they know the class that you're in, they know your struggles, so they're not going to be like weird about it. So I think just continue to stay hopeful, and also just, embrace UT Dallas. I think sometimes you don't understand the value of the things you get until they're gone and you're graduated. And so I am extremely fortunate that I ended up exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I cannot thank UT Dallas enough for my development.
Absolutely love that. And Sarah, your wise words.
I love your touch on taking advantage of everything. One thing I have also for just current students, I'm going to be honest, I feel like alumni and professors are the people I learned most from. Like, all of my takeaways from UTD came from the people before me. And I think one thing I would impart on current students is, don't be afraid to be yourself, and don't be afraid to be bold. Like, recruiters for companies of your dreams are going to come to campus. Like, they're going to come talk to classes. They're going to want to get to know you. So make sure, like, if you're a current student and you have like 5 companies, these are your dream companies, like, you would love to work there one day, and they're coming to campus, don't be afraid to go talk to them. Don't be afraid to tell them how much you want to be a part of their company. I remember I did that my sophomore year, and I got an internship offer with the company I wanted to work for. And so take advantage of knowing, like, what you want to do. And if you don't have it totally figured out, that's okay. It's okay to have like 10 companies where you're like, well, this one's more IT based, but this one's, I don't know, human resources based. And I don't really know what I want to do yet. Like, don't be afraid to take opportunities and never say no to anything for the most part. I mean, obviously there's things you're gonna, like if you're overwhelmed and you're busy, maybe say no to a couple of things. But when it comes to internships and practice interviews and using JSOM resources, maybe, you know, you're struggling with a concept in your finance class and it would be so valuable to have an upperclassman who works in the finance lab help you through the problem. Say yes to the opportunities that you're given here at UTD because it's going to go a long way in helping your future. I think also when it comes to, you know, your internship experiences, your volunteer work, all of it is going to build up and be a part of your professional career. So don't be afraid to say, this door is open. If you're scared, take the risk. I just said I was risk adverse at the beginning of this podcast, but in all honesty, when it comes to like my professional career and knowing what I wanted, sometimes it's worth taking a little leap of faith. And I think that's something that was so valuable for me in my career or my college career per se, was taking risk that it was, you know, mitigated risk. I knew exactly what I was doing, but like, you know, have faith in yourself. Like, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to contact the companies you want to work for. Don't be afraid to use a resource because you're embarrassed you don't know the concepts. Like, people have been in your shoes before. They're going to help you every step of the way. Like, your professors, your faculty, your alumni, they have your best interest because your success is success for all of us. Like, this university gets better because of the people that come here. And I think you can be a part of that and make these degrees even more valuable than they already are. They make us longstanding and they give us that accreditation that makes this university so prestigious to go to. So that would be my piece of advice.
Absolutely. And connections do matter at the end of the day for all business students, no matter where you are. So thank you three so much for joining me and for being such wonderful guests. It was a pleasure talking with all of you. And thank you everyone at home for tuning in. If you liked what you heard today and you would love to hear more, be sure to follow us on all of our platforms and follow us on Instagram at JSOM Deans Council. Links will be in the description. On that note, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay professional out there, JSOM community. We'll see you next time on the Parlament Podcast.